Hello, everyone. Super happy to be welcoming you today to our second edition of Startup Ecosystems Unlocked with Techstars, which is our webinar sessions dedicated to startup ecosystems and what make amazing startup ecosystems around the world. And today we are tackling the topic of universities and their role in developing amazing startup ecosystems and communities around the globe. I would like to introduce today's session and also be giving the way after this to our first speaker. But first, my name's Emily. I am a program manager at Techstars, and I've been working for the company for about 2 years now, and I've developed programs, ecosystem development programs, as we call them, around the EMEA region, Berlin, where I live, Saudi Arabia, as well as supported some programs in the UAE and very recently also Northern Ireland. I am very, very happy and thrilled to be today your little moderator for this second edition of Startup Ecosystems Unlocked. I, on the side also of my job at Techstars, I'm a community leader and an ecosystem developer in Berlin, where I live. And this topic really is a passion of mine, which is why I have been chosen to be the moderator and host of those sessions. Now that this is behind us, I would like to drive you through the agenda of today. So at 9 a.m. PST, we'll be starting by a welcome and intro by me, which is check. Now we can go into an introduction to university startup ecosystems by Ryan Cooter, our M&T Managing Director of our Techstars Accelerator powered by SDSU. Then we will be meeting the speakers. Kathy and Stephen will get a chance to dive a little bit deeper into their background, what they've done until now, and what their role is in their respective universities, and what type of things that they are actually currently putting together and organizing to support startup ecosystems where they are based. At the end of the discussion, that will take about 25 to 30 minutes, we will have a Q&A session, so don't hesitate to drop your questions already in the little Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and let us know if you have any questions this way. The questions will be answered by our amazing speakers around 9:45 a.m. PST, if that makes sense to everyone in the room. Without further ado, I would love for Ryan to get a chance to introduce himself and to give us a little bit more of information about his view on university startup ecosystems. Ryan, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thanks, Emily. I appreciate it so much. If we could go ahead and click through maybe 2 slides. I think this is me, you guys. My name is Ryan Cooter. I'm the Managing Director for Techstars San Diego, powered by San Diego State University. I've been at Techstars for 10 years now. I started doing this job back in 2014, and through that period of time, I've had the good fortune to be an investor in 112 early stage startups. I previously run Techstars Accelerators, another one in San Diego that was focused on robots, but also in London, and one virtually on the internet called Techstars Anywhere. I also have been a very active startup community guy. I'm the former board chair for Startup San Diego, which is a local nonprofit here in San Diego that helps the earliest of early stage companies with education and learning. A role as board chair that is now played by Kathy Poocher, who you're all going to meet in just a quick moment. I'm based in San Diego. My family's been here for several generations. I am a 100% San Diego guy, go Padres. And so I'm going to use San Diego as like an example of a startup ecosystem where we have a really active university that's playing a role in there. So if we can go to the next slide. A little bit about San Diego. San Diego is a lot of sunshine and fish tacos, but it's also the 5th most active VC market in the country. And that's according to the Q2 report that came out from Carta. There was over $1 billion invested in San Diego startups in Q2 alone of this year. Puts us just behind Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, and Boston. We're the #3 venture capital market for biotech companies, #6 for consumer companies, and #7 for SaaS companies. So even though we might seem like a small little town down in the bottom left corner of the United States, there's a lot of activity that's going on here in the startup ecosystem. And there's a lot of things that go together to make that startup ecosystem work. Our next slide. There's a couple of things that go into building a great startup ecosystem. And I'm going to differentiate a little bit because I'm going to use two words here today that can be a little bit interchangeable. But I'm going to talk about both about ecosystems and I'm going to talk about communities. And the way that I differentiate those two things is that ecosystems have these kind of independent components of each other. They're like the ingredients. And I believe that the communities are like the recipes, right? The communities are the ways that we put these ingredients together. So there's a couple of ingredients that go into any great startup ecosystem, right? One of those is capital, and that exists in a bunch of different ways. One is customers. Startups and early stage companies need to have people to sell their products to. One is talent, right? Where do the people that work and build these companies come from? And where do the great ideas that drive these companies happen? So I'm going to walk through each of these, but I'm going to do it from, on the next slide, a university's perspective, because I believe that there are certain roles in a startup ecosystem that universities are uniquely situated to play in their local communities. So let's go to the next slide and we'll talk about what those components are. The first thing is the great ideas, right? Great ideas can come from a lot of places. They come from R&D. They come from all of the different places on your campus. You've got founders coming up with ideas. You've got professors that are helping them out. There's a lot of ways that these great ideas happen. Talent is another thing that universities are a great source of. And if we click one more time, something that I want to talk about today is the concept of physical space and the role that physical space plays in this recipe for a great startup ecosystem. So I'm going to dig into these one at a time. So if we go to the next slide, we'll talk about great ideas first. I think that there are a couple of places where great ideas come from, right? If you happen to be a research university, like that's a really obvious one, right? You've got all of your researchers and scientists and PhDs that are doing all kinds of work on amazing technologies. And these technologies often become the birth of the new companies that are going to be the things that drive the economies forward moving into the future. The other thing that you've got, and this is one of the things that I think SDSU has done really, really well, is you got this idea of business models, right? And so great ideas aren't always just the results of research and things like that that are coming out of the university. A lot of times it's just people identifying opportunities. Like I think a great example of an SDSU alum was Ralph Rubio, who went down to Baja California, discovered great fish tacos, came back, brought them to San Diego and created Rubio's Fish Tacos, a huge business, a big driver for the local economy. And it's become kind of like a trademark thing that we happen to be known about here. And lastly, there's this idea of product identification and refinement, right? As students, faculty members, and staff, as they start to see the world around them, universities are a really terrific laboratory for them to identify, work with, and refine those problems that they're going to be solving. And sometimes those problems get solved as the result of a project or a company that's born on campus, but sometimes they're just things that stick with somebody. So that 5 years, 10 years, 30 years down the road, an entrepreneur goes and says, that's the problem I'm going to solve. I want to talk a little bit about talent, because I think universities play a great role in talent. So we can go to the next slide, Emily. I think there's three key things that I want to talk about in talent. Number one is the idea of an innovator, right? Innovators are the people that are inventing things, right? These are your PhDs, these are your researchers. These are the folks that are like working on creating real technologies and developing brand new things that have never existed before. But universities also have entrepreneurs. They got entrepreneurs like Ralph, who started Rubio's. Also, out of SDSU, there's other companies like Pura Vida, which sold handmade crafts from outside of the United States. There's Blenders Eyewear. I think UC Boulder might be here, but Coach Prime wears his Blenders. That's a San Diego state-based company. Trust and Will is a company that was there that was founded by an entrepreneur who decided that there was a better way to do estate planning. And all of these ideas come out here. And these companies don't get built necessarily by the inventors. They get built by entrepreneurs. And sometimes those are the same people. There's a last group that I want to talk about because I think this is a place where university comes into play. And that is hustlers, right? The idea of a hustler is like, these are people that get the things done. And a program that I want to share with you that Kathy's put together at SDSU that I think is really great is that when we run our Techstars Accelerator, we create an opportunity for students, 12 students, to have internships where they work directly with the companies in the Techstars Accelerator. And those students do a ton of work in an unbelievably small amount of time. And I think when you take that energy that you get from students at universities, that's a ton of hustle. And that hustle is what makes companies grow. The last thing that I want to talk about is physical spaces.
We pay them, Ryan.
We do. They're actually paid. There's a donor who's made a grant, and those students are paid. Those are paid internships. I think it's a good point, Kathy. Let's go to our last point, which is physical spaces, Emily. And click one more time through. A couple of years ago, we used to have a football team here in San Diego called the San Diego Chargers, but that team left. SDSU won the rights to redevelop the area where their old stadium was. So not only did they build a really fantastic stadium for the San Diego State Aztecs football team, but they're also developing an innovation district around that. This building is at the center of that innovation district, right? This building is going to house incubator and accelerator space, co-working space, event space. It's going to be centered in the middle of a bunch of corporate labs and headquarters, government offices. There's a social space up on the top with a really cool like rooftop bar and everything like that. But the idea here is that through this redevelopment, San Diego State can play a leading role in creating a geographical center of gravity for the startup and innovation ecosystem in San Diego. And I believe that physical space, which is something that every university has, plays a key role in that. When you think about these components of a startup ecosystem, you need some place to mix them together. And I think this is an amazing opportunity for universities. If we can go to the next slide, Emily. SDSU has a lot of great spaces, and I recognize that SDSU might be a bigger university than some of the other universities are here. But up here in the top left, you got me and my friend Caitlin in front of a theater full of people, right? We got a theater going on here. Down here in the bottom left, we're gathered together at a courtyard. There's a bowling alley on campus, this top center photo. This is local startup founders all gathering to get together during Startup Week in San Diego in the bowling alley. There's classroom space. There is event space. There's courtyards. And the one thing that you'll notice in all of these pictures is they're full of people, right? And the people that are in these photos are founders, they're mentors, they're investors, they're faculty and staff, they're volunteers, and they're students. And what SDSU has done with their spaces is they've created places for these people to mix, because unless you mix the ingredients together, you're not going to get the outcome that you want from the recipe. If we go to the next slide, there's a couple more spaces that I'll share with you. These are 3 other spaces around campus. On our left here, we've got a pizza restaurant. It's called OG's, really good. This is Vidya, who's a local founder and product leader who's coming in and telling the story about how she built her career. In the middle, we've got a courtyard, it's like a 2nd story court. It's actually a super cool space. This is a guy named Jeremy. Jeremy just raised $16 million for his company, Splash, to change the way that pool cleaning companies operate. And this is Jeremy telling the story about his last business and how he got into his new business to a group of founders. And over here on the right is in a classroom. We've got a guy named Zeb Evans. Zeb started a company called ClickUp that some of you might use. ClickUp was one of our recent billion-dollar unicorn companies in San Diego. And this is an opportunity for Zeb to come in and use the space to talk to founders about how he built his company. And I think that one of the things that universities do that's really important, we can go to our final slide here, Emily. I think one of the things that universities have a great opportunity to do is to take all of the pieces that they have internally, their faculty, their staff, their researchers, their students, and then create space for the communities around them to come in and join, right? And by using that space, universities have the opportunity to be a catalyst for their local startup community. You use your space, you use your people, you bring the community together, and as your students and your university community have the opportunity to kind of experience what that world outside the campus walls looks like. That's where we get the opportunity for all of that activity to happen. And we can center that activity around these amazing spaces that you all have access to create these focal points for entrepreneurship, for innovation, and for startups to take the ingredients from these ecosystems and mix them together. It is a great privilege for me to be able to work with the team at San Diego State University, supporting a community that I love, the San Diego startup community. I'm very grateful to SDSU for the opportunity and their leadership in putting that together. And I'm excited for you guys to talk to Stephen and Kathy about ways that their universities are driving the local startup ecosystems there. So thanks for your time, you guys. It's been a pleasure being here with you.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Thank you so, so much. I think this was a great beginning to our little webinar here. Thanks so much for putting so much energy in it. We're going to, of course, start with introducing the other speakers. Now that you've met Ryan, let's talk about Kathy. Kathy, I want to give you the floor for introducing you to the rest of the audience here.
Okay, thank you, and happy to be here, and thank you for all of that, Ryan. So I'm, as it says here, I'm the Executive Director of Entrepreneurship Initiatives at SDSU. I have a technical background, but worked in a technical business capacity my entire career. After spending almost 20 years with Texas Instruments in semiconductors, I had the opportunity to see during my time at TI the rise of the smartphone and became fascinated with startups. After leaving Texas Instruments, I was a co-founder of a startup. I was on the leadership team of 2 other startups. I've been a board member, and just fell more and more in love with the startup world. I was able to help start an incubator in the community called Evo Nexus, which was a wonderful experience and really gave me my first opportunity to be giving back to the community based on my passion for startups. And then I've been at SDSU now for 12 plus years. And those startup or entrepreneurship initiatives that I'm responsible for include our one and only incubator, the Zip Launchpad, the Lavin Entrepreneurship Center, which falls under our Fowler College of Business. And as of lately, I have the most amazing opportunity to manage the partnership with Techstars San Diego, powered by SDSU, and work with the fabulous staff like Ryan and his team that support that initiative.
Amazing. Thank you very much. I want to automatically give the floor to Stephen now for introducing our third speaker, my bad. Stephen, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, a pleasure to talk to everyone. So I'm an associate, my name is Steve Molden. I'm an associate vice president for research strategy and innovation at USC in our Office of Research and Innovation. And my background is a little bit more mundane. So I'm a geneticist, and I was in academia. And then I worked as an NIH program officer for 11 years before I came to join USC back in 2006, first managing an office that pursued grant funding, and then now grant submissions. And then now what I oversee is an internal program that supports our faculty to prepare for submitting research proposals, an office that submits large proposals, our tech transfer office, and then a venture fund. And part of my responsibilities include overseeing the Techstars partnership that we are in the first year of developing that's just been absolutely fantastic. So what we're trying to do at USC, well, just my background. So I haven't started a company. I haven't done things like that. When I was in NIH, I had a boss, an institute director who was very keen, who was very prescient, and saw the need for government industry partnerships. And so I did a lot of work, mostly in the genomic space with companies like Millennium. And so that was my background to get me excited about seeing the value and the role of how industry could supplement other opportunities. And we did a very interesting partnership with Affymetrix. These are sort of the genomics companies in the day. So in my current role, I think that what we're trying to do is take an interesting approach, in the sense that USC's innovation ecosystem has a long history, but it's sort of it has pieces to it, and they haven't been integrated. And some of the schools that we have, where there is just veins of entrepreneurship, haven't really been included in this process. And because we're at a university that, for example, we have a cinematic arts school, we have a really revolutionary program that trains undergraduates to be entrepreneurs. It's the Iovine Academy. We have a medical school. We have an engineering school, more traditional schools. And previously, some schools have very well developed ecosystems, okay, to connect, to foster entrepreneurship and to connect their faculty and students to VCs or to mentors at companies, et cetera. But then some schools have a strong interest and desire, and they really want to do stuff, but there are no opportunities. So for us, the Techstars program offered just a wonderful way to do that, because it would allow faculty, students, even alumni and staff across all schools to participate. And then lastly, we launched some internal programs to support just students wanting to be entrepreneurs, and also to support faculty to pursue SBIR opportunities. So all of that, I think, is trying to evolve our ecosystem to be more integrated, more comprehensive. So if you look at the whole life of the business cycle of a company, from pre-seed or to pre-seed all the way to Series C, Series A, Series B, we're trying to develop a series of internal funding opportunities and other, sort of didactic programs that we can help build entrepreneurship for our students, faculty, and alumni. And Techstars is sort of a crown jewel in that effort.
I love hearing this. Techstars is a crown jewel. This is the first time ever I hear this particular thing being said about the organization. Heard plenty of positive stuff. I really like that. I'll use it again, Stephen. Thank you.
It's copyrighted by US. No, I'm kidding. We'll give you a license. It's non-exclusive license to use them.
All right. Well, in this case, I would love for us to start the discussion. Stephen, you've already talked about a lot of different things about the role that Techstars has played to support you in building this entrepreneurial ecosystem around USC. I have a broader question around this topic, which is, can you tell us the story, Kathy and Stephen, about what was behind the focus on entrepreneurship for your university? Why did USC and SDSU decide to focus on this particular topic? And how did it start? And why did you think it was important?
You want me to?
You can start, Stephen, absolutely.
I'll just say very, very briefly, in my mind, for us, societal impact is very important. So we're an academic institution, we're a research enterprise. Where is the bang? Where's the value? Okay. The value is if our research, the fruits of our research has societal impact. Okay. And myself and many of my leadership just has the opinion that when you commercialize, when you bring something from the, overhanged ivory tower back down for people to use, and you commercialize and make it broadly available, what you're doing is just enhancing the impact to have a real effect in people's lives, right? So that was the main motivation. That's the main motivation, right? We want to give our faculty an opportunity that others around the country, around the world, really see the effects of their research enterprise. Could be an implant, it could be a new kind of a battery, it could be a new virtual reality technology, et cetera. But when you commercialize and you give people an opportunity to get access that way, it just really increases the dissemination of process. So that's the main motivation.
Awesome. So for you, it was more on the societal impact of entrepreneurship. About you, Kathy, what was the driver behind SDSU's wish to get involved?
Yeah, so I wasn't around at the time, but it was over 30 years ago. Alex DeNoble and some other faculty that were in the Fowler College of Business really recognized and were passionate about having entrepreneurship as an educational opportunity, not just a class, but a minor and then a major, an emphasis, however you want to call it. And our Lab and Entrepreneurship Center, which was originally called Entrepreneurship Management Center, I believe, was one of the first in the country. So, and I think Ryan alluded to it, the business model value proposition has really been one key area, not the only area that founders from SDSU have really flourished with, that innovation around the business model. There's been other innovations, but that's one of the areas. And I think that just comes from our decades of entrepreneurship being embedded in what we do.
Awesome.
As an institution. And then now innovation, and with our research dollars growing, it's only natural that if you want to make an impact, like Stephen said, it needs to move from the lab into society, and commercialization is a key way to do that.
Amazing. Bringing impact to reality in few words, if we can say so. Bringing the lab to reality and perhaps bringing a lot more better things to people's lives. That's a really good vision, a really good North Star, I would say, for universities like yours. Knowing that, Kathy, you've just mentioned you've been around for about 30 years at the CSU. No, I mean I mean the entrepreneurship arm of the university has been around for about 30 years. Can you talk about the biggest successes that have been coming out of this initiative, and Stephen as well, out of USC and the efforts put in entrepreneurship?
There's so many different successes that I can talk about, and Ryan alluded
Sure.
or mentioned some of them, but I like to give two examples that I think really illustrates the heartbeat of SDSU's entrepreneurship strength. One is Luke Sofinos. He came into the incubator as a sophomore. He started with an idea of eliminating the Scantron. He applied he applied the methodology that we follow, which is lean startup. And he found out it was an inconvenience, the Scantron, but nobody really found it as a significant pain point. But in the process, he found out that taking attendance in a large classroom was really a big pain point, because students were sending the clicker and not themselves to have somebody else take attendance for them. And from that, and again, in the support of the Zip Launchpad, he recruited his team members. He came up with the idea of using geofencing to take attendance in a large classroom and patented it. Fast forward, his company has evolved. He first worked with universities, but then found that career colleges had this unmet need, and it was a green field. And so fast forward, he's really been a SaaS back office for career colleges, starting with the pain point of attendance and then moving to other things. He's raised over 20 million. He's 8 million annual reoccurring revenue, and was a sophomore when he got this all started. And we had snaps from Ryan. I mean, Luke is really one of my just favorite people, and the team that he built around him has always been diverse, and just really proud of him. The second one I like to do, though, is Chrissy and her journey with So Much. So Chrissy and Rayanne were working at True Foods, and they were really disgusted at the food waste from the brown rice and the quinoa that were prepared every night, not used, and then thrown away. And they applied to the Zip Launchpad to do something about that food waste. And working with our rapid prototyping lab, they, through several iterations, came up with the idea of dehydrating the unused but very good brown rice quinoa, turning it into a flour, and then using from the juicing from the restaurant the pulp of the beets and the carrots to flavor, and got to the point where 10 cookies sold, So Much cookies, equated to 1 pound of food waste. And these young ladies were fabulous competitors, and there was a lot of social impact competitions around the United States, and we were able to fund them to travel. They raised over $70,000 just in competitive money, and Chrissy had never left the state, let alone the country, and she was able, through a success in a competition, to go with Rayanne to a castle in London to do a social impact accelerator, and she said she was a princess in a castle. And I mean, these stories just are amazing. Of course, you'll look at Luke and this financial success, but I think what we gave to Chrissy and Rayanne was, in my heart, equally successful.
Amazing. Two very different stories with two very different outcomes, also different stages at the moment, right? One that is the more, I would say, typical success of 20 million raised, etc. And this story of Chrissy and Rayanne being a little bit earlier stage, if I can say so, and still to be written. That's absolutely fascinating. And I'm sure, Stephen, you might want to also shout out some of your best successes at USC.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you that the Techstars program for us is new. So I mean, but we already have a really good start. I mean, in the past, I should tell you that at USC, just in general, we've we have a really innovative, the two things I would highlight, we have a really innovative program called the Iovine and Young Academy, which was founded in 2013, which essentially is basically just giving undergraduates the opportunity to have a degree in entrepreneurship, and they start companies and they do these amazing things. So we had that program, and we had our School of Cinematic Arts, where, for example, we developed a pioneering technology with augmented reality. That was Palmer Luckey's work that became a $2 billion company, right? Using Oculus, right? That was this genesis of that was at USC. And then we have biomedical innovation. For example, we had an inventor that developed the first FDA-approved eye implant to remediate blindness, okay? So we've had pieces like that. But what Techstars, I'll give my plug for Techstars, right? Because it brings to the students, especially faculty and students, the opportunity at a very early point, because to get engaged and to really develop their ideas. So one thing we were very mindful of, look, we all know traditional academia, what does that have to do with innovation? Nothing. It just kills it, right? It beats it with a hammer. So we wanted to give an opportunity to people that don't fit. They're creative, they're amazing, but they don't fit into the traditional academic approach. And we don't want them to just go for a year, 2 years, they drop out, they don't get a degree, and then they go and do these wonderful things. So for example, the first Techstars event that we did is just amazing to me, because we put together some individuals, students, and between that and working with the Iovine Academy, which is a big part of it. For example, there were two companies that both of them are started by, they're all undergraduates, okay? I love it. They have this idea to develop software they've already have a prototype. They have a working product that will parse medical records. And based on the parsing from doctor's notes, they'll generate CPT codes and diagnostic codes. Now, for all of you, many of you may know that work in the space, that's a tremendously expensive task. It's a whole field where you hire people to do this. And this is sort of like AI coming to bear in the, sort of biomedical space. But I love this company. I've already presented this to a couple of VCs that are like, this is like the greatest thing since sliced bread. There's 3 undergraduates. They all emerged from a Techstars training effort. And then there's another company that has the idea and a technology to convert food waste into natural gas for cooking. And it's like, both of these have many people from the Iovine Academy program that I mentioned at USC, but they also have partnerships with other schools at USC. Techstars has just given them a path, right? A path to go and pursue additional mentoring, intensive mentoring, partnerships, other collaborations to really develop these products for companies and make them more commercially viable. So I just have a couple of examples like that. I have entrepreneurship from the old days that we've done. We can be a very innovative institution, but there are veins of innovation that remain untapped that now the Techstars program is really, I feel like I'm in a Techstars ad, but they're really giving us the opportunity to encourage entrepreneurship and commercialization, to move it forward.
I think maybe, tell me if I'm wrong, but the training effort you were mentioning right before was the startup weekend that occurred a few months ago also. Was that right?
You're asking me?
Yes, yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And in fact, I mentioned that we made a program just focused on student entrepreneurship. And because we identified individuals through the Techstars program, guess what we did too? We gave them some money. Not a lot of money, but we gave them some money to move things along. So we made a brand new program for students specifically to move entrepreneurship forward and give them $15,000, okay? 15 to start, right? But we funded something like 8 of them. And I think 7 of them all came initially through the Techstars program. So I'm like, oh my God, that's great. This is 1 year. We just started this. It's not even a year, it's a few months. So what we're trying to do is, as I said, make a comprehensive system where we have internal program and funding. But what we needed that Techstars gave us is just the opportunity to give a venue or a rubric to bring people in and alert them and say, hello, we're very interested in commercialization and innovation and entrepreneurship in an ecosystem that maybe we didn't across all of our schools have that perspective before.
Absolutely amazing. Well, you know what? You gave me a really good way into my next question, but I was about to ask both you and Kathy about the different stakeholders that you work with on those ecosystems and those people, those other organizations that actually support you and help you bringing forward and fast forwarding entrepreneurship in both of your areas and locations. Stephen and Kathy, maybe Kathy first, who would you like to shout out today?
So clearly the person who has just been such a tremendous supporter of the San Diego ecosystem, he's philanthropic as well as a founder as well as an investor, is Andy Ballister. And we would not be doing, not only is he incredible in terms of what he gives back, his time, his money in all different capacities to the San Diego community. He's the co-founder of GoFundMe, a company that was started in San Diego, which a lot of people don't know. He and his family love San Diego, and raising their family in San Diego is really important to them. But we would not have Techstars San Diego powered by SDSU if it wasn't for Andy. He supported it from the very, very beginning. He was passionate about bringing Techstars to the San Diego ecosystem. He considered it the missing piece, and we heard that from other community partners as well. He supported us from his, he provided a donation that was very critical to get us up and running. And he insisted that, although this isn't something that you really are supposed to do, but he was persistent and insisted that Ryan be at the head of it. And so we were very fortunate to have Ryan leading it, and we owe all of that to Andy Ballister.
If I can just add one thing about Andy, which is kind of cool, is like, he's not a San Diego State alum, right? And I think what it does is that's a testament to the job that the entrepreneurship team at San Diego State has done in involving the entire community beyond the campus walls, is that they've wound up with this amazing relationship with Andy, who's been an incredible catalyst for the entire ecosystem, even though he's not an alum. And I think that shows the work that Kathy and her team have done, reaching outside of just the SDSU campus, which has been really terrific.
Oh, that's an absolutely amazing story, actually. We all want a good Samaritan like yours, actually, Kathy, for sure. How about you, Stephen? You've already shouted out Techstars so many times. Maybe do you have also other organizations that you want to put forward for this during this call?
Sure. I mean, and about Techstars, I will mention specifically Morgan Berman and Talisha Moen and Chris Franks, and now you have a new person, Gabrielle Schlumberger, who have just been wonderful. Okay, Mark Stevens for us is a very well-known VC guy who is an alum, and it gave us a lot of money over the years and one of our trustees who's been very, very supportive of entrepreneurship at USC. So Mark Stevens, and then we have a whole set of venture capital firms that are very, very supportive, from Seaside Ventures and Westlake Village Bio Partners and RPT Capital. I mean, there's several in the area. Osage University Partners and Kristen Loida has been sort of a role model for us. And of course, Mike Cohen, who runs the UC Berkeley ecosystem. Mike is our god. Everything that we've done, I go to Mike, and because one day we want to be Berkeley. We want to, when we grow up, we want to aspire to be UC Berkeley. And Mike has just been so influential in developing their system there. And you know what? unless you have good collaborations and partnerships and relationships, my opinion is, you really go much farther if you have those relationships. So we're very fortunate to do that. Is that what you want? Does that make sense?
That makes absolute sense. And it actually gives me a really good leeway into my next question, which would be here. Both of you mentioned that you have actually opened the doors of the university ecosystem and the startup ecosystems that you were building internally to other members of the community, to make it not only something USC or something SDSU, but really much something that transcends just the organization and the university. This is for sure a best practice in order to provide entrepreneurs and startups with the best possible fields in order to build and have their ideas blossom. What other tips and tricks and what other best practices would you put on the table for the rest of the audience here?
I can go.
You want to
first.
go? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Sure.
So at SDSU, we are a small but mighty team when it comes to research and innovation. And we have the benefit, as Ryan knows, of having a very robust collaborative startup ecosystem in San Diego. Tremendous organizations support the growth, and those relationships are really important for the reasons that you talked about. So what we've done is that we've been really strategic, and we've mapped out the organizations that we think are really important for us to have meaningful relationships with, and then divided and conquered in terms of who would participate, and then make sure, as a board member, what have you, and then make sure the participation is consistent. And by just showing up in the community and doing it consistently and building those relationships, it's really made a difference when we need help finding a CEO for a researcher, or if we need help finding an advisor or a domain expert. We have these relationships and an expanded network, and then the same back, they have the expanded network back into SDSU. And it's been really valuable. We whine a little bit about the number of evenings that are taken, but it's really worth it.
A lot of late nights I can hear, but all worth it when you see the next unicorn entrepreneurs going through the door and saying thank you because they actually could get the right person on the phone thanks to what you've been fostering as an ecosystem around the university. Stephen, on your side, maybe another tip or trick that you would like to share with also other people in the room?
Well, I think it's all about collaboration and cooperation. So we're lucky that across town, we want to use our entrepreneurship programs and anchor it and build programs in partnership with UCLA and Caltech, right? Because our ultimate goal is we're going to make the LA ecosystem bigger than Silicon Valley. Oh yeah, baby. I mean, we're just gonna, we're just gonna really unleash, there's a sort of a bias, I think. And San Diego is an absolutely fantastic innovation ecosystem, but a lot of VCs, they look at California and just think, Menlo Park, the Bay Area. And our goal in really moving things forward with Techstars is to change that, where LA will dominate, yes. So to do that, you need the partnerships. We were just, before this call, Kathy and I were just, sort of bemoaning some work that we had done independently on. Many people in the audience will remember a large NSF effort focused on engines for innovation, et cetera. It was a painful process. But anyway, as part of that, we connected with institutions all across Southern California, including SDSU, but Scripps and Salk and UCLA and UCSD and Irvine and Riverside. And in a trick, okay, what I say is, look, if you just go into this, man, and it sounds hokey, but if you want to just do good and you want to increase the impact of what you're doing and you have no humility about it, and you just say, look, it's not just about money or I'm first or, these kind of things. To me, you find a group of like-minded people, and then the power of innovation can be unleashed. That's my perspective.
Can I share a quick thought in response to what Steven said? Because I loved a lot of things about that. And one being, we're going to be the next Silicon Valley, and like he's got these like goals and ambitions. And I want to recognize that like not all of it, like LA is a really unique place, right? That's got a lot of really unique assets for a startup community to be formed. And like San Diego, we're oftentimes, LA's little brother, like down to the south, like a fraction of the size and much smaller and everything like that. And I think one of the things that we've realized as a smaller market is that we've got a lot of really great assets too that allow us to be who we are, like by ourselves, right? And that winds up being a great thing for us. We embrace the smallness of our market. And like, look, San Diego is like one of the 10 largest cities in the country, and fifth in like, so like we punch above our weight class, like in a lot of ways. But one of the things that we've done as a community here in San Diego is recognized what we're good at, right? Part of that is connectivity and accessibility, right? Like San Diego is a knowable market, right? You can meet people like Andy and Zeb, who started companies like GoFundMe and ClickUp that people have heard about, because they're accessible, because the community is small. And so for a lot of you that are out there, you're working, like many of you are in Los Angeles and the Bay Area and New York and some of the other big cities, but a lot of you aren't. And where you aren't, I think one of the things that's really important is recognize what you have as assets, and your university can be the catalyst for pulling those things together. And I think one of the advantages that we have as smaller markets is the accessibility of those assets. And if we can focus on that, we can each do the most with the resources that we have access to.
Awesome. Well, I have one question to wrap it all. And after this, I would love to open the floor to questions. Steven, you've already put a lot of things on the table to answer this question. So maybe I'll turn to Kathy and to Ryan in this case. How has Techstars supported you in accelerating the development of this startup ecosystem in San Diego and in SDSU? Would be my question, and my last question for you, and also for you after this, Steven.
I think it's important to understand why we did Techstars. So we created Techstars San Diego, powered by SDSU, to be a flagship as part of the SDSU Mission Valley Innovation District, which is several years out. And our philosophy was anything that we want to do that we can do now, let's do it. And so getting Techstars San Diego, powered by SDSU, up and running quickly is actually one of many strengths of the Techstars brand and working with them. We were able to get that up and running very quickly. And another goal is to have companies apply from all over the world and come to San Diego. Eventually they'll be in that building that Ryan showed, that will be gathering spot for innovators and entrepreneurs from across San Diego County. But the idea was to bring them in from all over the world, and we accomplished that. And Ryan can go through the stats in the first class that we held, and for them to fall in love with our ecosystem and want to be in San Diego. So 9 out of 12 relocated to San Diego for the 13-week programming, and 10 out of 12 stayed here. And those are the kind of results that we want to see. The other thing is, one of the things that Ryan really takes huge pride on is curating, not just finding great startups, but curating the right personalities to be in the room and form the relationship and bond. And I've had the opportunity several times without Ryan there to hear the teams, the startups, talk about the relationship that they have with each other and how helpful it is, and see the respect and the way in which they interact and how happy they are to see each other, and how the type of information that they're sharing with each other. It's so powerful. And of course, everything else, the programming, the mentoring, the introduction to investors, being trained on investors, all of that, they do great. I'm talking about the things that are the less obvious that really make a difference and just add to SDSU, but also to the community. So we've been really pleased, and we're one and done, and we're starting the second in less than a month.
It's amazing. And Kathy, after having heard you, actually, like I have so many stories, and I know Ryan must have too, of founders that have been together in those programs and years later still see each other, even though they sometimes don't live in the same place, they still respect each other and have actually those very unbreakable links, I would say, that are born from the fact that they've actually worked together in those 12 weeks long programs throughout a lot of highs and lows and amazing different milestones that they've reached together throughout the program.
Real quick, Emily, if I can, like, I think Kathy brings up a really interesting point. And, you know, as much as we'd love to work with every university on the planet, right? Like, I don't know that we're going to get the opportunity to do that. But the kinds of things that universities can do is that they can be the conveners of those communities, right? You can create spaces, you can create meetups, you can, for local entrepreneurs that extend beyond your campus, right? Like, open up a building one night a week and like host a meetup for peer mentoring, right? Bring entrepreneurs in from outside, put a faculty member in the room with them, find an alumni who started a company or something like that and drop somebody in there. But there's so many little things that you can do to convene these people to get a similar kind of concept what Kathy was just sharing, which is entrepreneurs working together around the community to help each other out. And these are the kinds of things that you can do with zero budget, right? You can open up a classroom or an event space or something like that, like host it, like bring people in, get an entrepreneurship professor in there to talk to them. Kathy talked about the fact that it's a lot of work and it takes a lot of late nights, but catalyzing that community and using the physical space that you have to bring people outside of your university in creates not just value for the people that you're bringing in, but also for the people that are part of your university community, because it creates exposure to things that they wouldn't have exposure to otherwise. And I think that's a tremendous opportunity.
Yeah, sometimes all it takes is actually a couple of pizzas, right? To bring people together, a couple of pizzas.
But like, just a quick example. So SDSU participates in La Jolla Playhouse Innovation Night. And, you know, I got in the meeting, the discussion was, well, who should we showcase? What startups within SDSU? And I'm like, wait, we should showcase a Techstars company, you know, like they're part of the family. Let's figure out who from Techstars San Diego, powered by SDSU, should have a table. And it was exciting because it's 12 more, and then every year of exciting people that we can bring to the table and show what SDSU can do.
Amazing. Stephen, I want to give you 1 minute to give us a few last words here so that we can open the floor to questions at least for 5 minutes.
I think that if my advice would be, if we build the ecosystem, they will come. People will come, they'll participate. You just have to be creative and think about opportunities. Techstars is one, and having a university, an institutional commitment to really move innovation forward is key, because universities, for all of the bad press, everything you might think, there's, I think, a tremendous amount of creativity and innovation there. You just have to give people an outlet.
All right. We thank you very much for those last words. And thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Stephen. I really want to open the floor to one question that was asked to us which was here. How do you, how do the startup ecosystems that you are currently putting together and at the forefront of actually embrace diversity? I think I heard Kathy say some things about this right before we jumped onto this call. Would you like to start, Kathy, on how you incorporate diversity and also the ecosystem that you're building at the moment?
I mean, we're just very fortunate at SDSU that it's a very diverse community, and we're a Hispanic serving institution. It's one of the things that I love the most about working at SDSU. And then the community itself, all our community partners, there's a lot of they're very thoughtful in terms of diversity within the membership and the board and the experiences. And Ryan, I think, is the best to talk about, but we produced a very diverse, really, really interesting, diverse group of founders were selected in the first 12. And Ryan could go through those statistics if he wants, but it was one of our goals to one of our KPIs was to have a diverse class, and we overachieved.
No, it was more than half the class identified as a member of an underrepresented population. But I think one of the key things is that it takes work, right? Because a lot of times what you wind up with is you wind up with people who have access and people that don't have access. And those people that, like, you're not going to see the people that don't have access unless you go and like find the paths and the ways to find them. And so that's something that requires energy, it requires effort, it requires network. And it requires people that are willing to like reach out like that. And so like when you think about this difference between like people with access and people without access, you know, there is energy and effort that goes into creating pathways for access. And I think that's one of the things that the universities, with the role that they play in a community, does really, really well.
Amazing. Stephen, on your side and on the side of USC?
Yeah, we're not a minority in serving institution. And in fact, for us, in the past, you know, we had to do a lot of work to really diversify our student and faculty body. And I would say that in the last, let's say 5 to 10 years, it looks like a completely different environment than when we started. So in this light, in the spirit of entrepreneurship, all of our programs, we give special emphasis, you know, big bold letters, you know, we want diverse teams and we want to enhance diversity. And, you know, with the companies that came through Techstars, the startup weekend, I was just really absolutely floored that we had diversity in terms of gender, you know, males and females, and we had very, very broad ethnic diversity in for each of the companies, 8 or 9 of the companies that we've been working with. So what our strategy, and part of that is because we have offices now and programs and interest groups and faculty members at USC that are really committed to this. So we've done a special reach out and with events and seminars and things to really kind of educate people about this and say, please come on in. And in fact, I've been having a discussion with the head of our tech transfer office that, you know, we were, you know, as we're not, you know, pushing people forward to be National Academy of Inventor nominees and fellows, et cetera, it just struck me that we need to do more in this space. And we want to really develop other programs to facilitate tech transfer and help people understand startups specifically focused on individuals to broaden gender and racial diversity, you know, across the university. So that I agree exactly with Kathy said and what Ryan said. If you want to make progress here, you have to make it, you know, sort of you have to really put attention to it, and you got to do it. That's all I can say. You instead of just talking, you actually have to implement, and you have to be committed and come up with things that really engage people. And for us, as we've done it, we've had very, very positive outcomes.
Amazing. Diversity comes from intentional initiatives. Would be the last words of this webinar with us today. We're at time. We have a few other questions, but what I propose is everyone that has a question, please don't hesitate to let us know, and we will send back answers via email if that's necessary. In any case, I just want to take I just want to give a huge round of thank you to Stephen, to Kathy, and to Ryan for their time so early in the morning to actually jump on this call with me, and Shamal and Jewel. And for being so open and sharing so much about what you've done in the past years to support entrepreneurs and make everywhere that you are, Los Angeles and San Diego, a better place for founders. So thank you very, very much for this. And I guess I wish you an awesome, awesome day for the beginning of the day that is your time zone, and the end of the day that is mine.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a really good one.
You.
Thank you.